Yeah, here we go now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Mega Football Friday edition of the show. Happy Black Friday, everybody. Do you say happy Black Friday to people? Probably not, but hopefully you guys got some good bargains out there. Right here today representing the Las Vegas Raiders. Wearing their colors today. Black Friday NFL game kicking off here in a couple of hours. We're going to be all over that. We're going to be all over college football, some games today, some big ones tomorrow, and a good-looking slate in the NBA here as well. So coming off a 4-2 in NFL Thanksgiving Day betting yesterday, really, Dolphins, Packers, you can't go over that 47.5. The Dolphins score 3 points in the first half. 4 and out on the 1 yard line. Really, Mike McDaniel calling a pass play out of shotgun on 4th and 1. Tua gets sacked. That's my Miami Dolphins, baby. More on them in a little bit, but a great big show. We're all over everything today. If you guys want to participate in the show, very easy to do so. Hit up that live chat right down there on YouTube, on X. What do you like today in college football, the NFL? What do you like tomorrow in college football? What do you like Sunday in the NFL? What do you like in the NBA here tonight? There's a lot to bet on. Like a lot of hockey going on here as well. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. It's a big show today, so let's go to our guy down there in sunny Las Vegas, Brad Powers. Brad, how you making out?
Hey, doing well. Hope everyone had a happy and safe Thanksgiving with their families.
Indeed. So I want to ask you about the latest rankings here in a second, but let's start with these Friday games. We have some kicking off here right now, including Colorado, Oklahoma State, teams like Ole Miss and Georgia in action here later. Anything stand out on the Friday college football board that you like?
Well, I mean, if you can get to the window in the next couple of minutes, I don't mind Wisconsin fading the steam right before kick there as a home underdog. Don't mind that one. Also, as far as the later games, lean Georgia Tech. I think that's the right side. They're a running dog. Work the clock. Georgia's 0-6 against the spread, laying more than 2 touchdowns this year. And then Iowa seems a little cheap now. We'll fade the steam again in that one. Kinnick at night is just a really tough place to play. I didn't anticipate Iowa -3. So nothing best bet worthy, but certainly 3 leans there.
Okay, so the latest rankings come out the other day. Any complaints? You think they got it right?
Well, I mean, I always have complaints because it's always like, are you ranking them because a deserve it factor, or are you ranking them purely on, how good these teams are? I mean, just, Georgia's at 7th. Well, I think Georgia's the second best team in the country, and it'll be proven next week in the SEC championship game when they're a favorite by margin, even over a team like Texas. Generally speaking, I think Notre Dame's better than Penn State. I'm wondering if they're waiting for the USC data point this weekend. Penn State already played USC, favored by 3.5 on the road, needed overtime. Say Notre Dame, who's a 7.5 point favorite at USC this week. Say Notre Dame wins by more than 7. Do they jump Notre Dame over Penn State? It's pretty critical when you look at some of the playoff brackets on who those teams will play, not only first round, but possibly in the second round. I think the biggest news, though, happened last night. Tulane loses outright, 2-touchdown favorite to Memphis. What does that mean? Well, it means that if Boise and UNLV take care of business this weekend, and they should, they're both favored by more than 17. Next week's Mountain West Championship game, winner is in the playoffs.
Okay, so let's look at these games on Saturday. So some big stakes for some teams. A lot of teams just basically looking to play spoiler here. So let's start with the big one. Michigan, Ohio State, big number. And this one of your best bets of the weekend comes from this game. We have Ohio State favored by 19. One of these classic spots, a big spread, low total, just 42.5. A lot of people like to hit the underdog in that situation. What do you think? What's your best bet for this game?
Yeah, you're right. And they've been hitting the underdog all week on that. Low total with a big spread. They're not used to seeing Ohio State favored by that much in this rivalry. It's only happened one other time in history. But with that being said, I'm kind of contrarian. I lean favorite and over. Lean that way. So let's combine the two to get a best bet. My preference is Ohio State team total. We're going over 30.5 here. Variety of reasons. Number one, when you got a team total like this, is there motivation for margin and to get a late score? Absolutely there is. This is their rival that's beaten them the last 3 years. If they have the opportunity late in the game to put one on them, they're going to do so. And we just saw it last week against Indiana. They could have taken a knee. They scored with like 15 seconds left. And this one means even more for Ohio State. And generally speaking, I think Michigan's defense is overrated. We've seen what Texas has done to that Michigan defense. We've seen what Oregon's done to that Michigan defense. We'll see the same on Saturday. Ohio State over. Series history, 10-0 to the over. Did you know that? You think bad weather, and there's going to be cold weather. It's not windy. You think bad weather, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, run the football? No, high scoring series by 17 points per game, Joe. 10-0 to the over.
Ooh, nice little nugget there from Brad. Okay, so low total, 42.5. We'll look to tell you on that Ohio State team total. Okay, next up, a tighter spread. In this one, good-looking game between South Carolina and Clemson. Clemson's favored by 3, total of 49. So Clemson looking to make a case here for a playoff bid, I guess you could say. South Carolina, pretty good bet here lately. 4-0 ATS on the road this season. They're riding a 5-game covering streak regardless of location. Do you think South Carolina can play spoiler here?
I do. I think we're going to take a best bet South Carolina +3, but obviously I think they're very live, and I think they win the game here. Variety of reasons here as well. Clemson, let's start with them. I think they're fraudulent. They have played 2 top 25 teams in my power rankings. They were dominating in both, against Georgia in the opener and then at home against Louisville a few weeks ago, where they clearly were outclassed in that game. Obviously, South Carolina, not only a top 25 team, I have South Carolina almost, on the cusp of top 10, even with 3 losses. And speaking of South Carolina, he changed a couple plays in their season, and we're thinking about this team as maybe a national title contender. They should have beaten LSU. They could have beaten Alabama. This is a legit team, and I love finally the matchup. Their defensive line for South Carolina is one of the top 5 in the country. No doubt about it, maybe even top 2. Clemson's got multiple starters on the offensive line that have been banged up in recent weeks. Some guys aren't going to play. Some guys are going to play less than 100%. Not good news against the South Carolina front. Let's take the Gamecocks.
Okay, next up, another interesting game, I guess you could say, and another best bet. We're getting them out of the way early here today, Brad. Notre Dame, USC. USC at home. They're a 7.5-point dog, total 52.5. The Fighting Irish have been a fantastic bet here this season. 9-2 against the spread. 7 straight covers coming into this one. You think they can keep the streak going?
No, I'm on the other side. Couple of reasons. SC's obviously their rival. This is the best team from a talent aspect that Notre Dame's played since September. So I'm anxious to see what Notre Dame looks like against a team just as talented as them. It's a tough spot for Notre Dame. Eerily similar to a spot from, I know I'm aging myself, 5-6 years ago. They were in this exact spot. Won an impressive game over a ranked opponent in Yankee Stadium, traveling to the Coliseum with a playoff bid on the line with a win against an underwhelming USC team. Notre Dame laying a relatively big number, didn't cover in that one, off to a really slow start. And let's take advantage of that slow start. And we're going to take USC as a best bet, +4 in the first half. We don't like what we see from USC in fourth quarters of games this year. They've actually led in the fourth quarter of every game, despite a 6-5 record. So let's eliminate that. Think about, the travel spot not being good for Notre Dame, playing, a little bit better caliber of athlete. Might be a shock to their system, at least early. SC +4 in the first half. I think I wouldn't be surprised they're winning at halftime.
Okay, next up, Alabama. We knew that they absolutely blew it last week. They're taking on Auburn here as an 11.5-point favorite. Total of 52.5. So Alabama must win, and they must do so impressively. They have no other choice coming into this one. Auburn, some decent offensive showings their last couple of times out. So do you think Alabama can win and do so impressively?
I do. I lean Alabama. Not a best bet because both teams are pretty tough to trust. What are you getting from either one? I think it's kind of a buy low, sell high. Auburn off their best performance of the season against A&M last week. Alabama off their worst performance of the season against Oklahoma. My power ratings like it. I do lean Alabama -11.5, and I have made that bet this week.
Okay, next up, last but not least, Texas A&M. Speaking of teams who blew it last week, A&M really blew it. Texas starting to stack double-digit wins once again. They're not a big favorite in this one by any means. You think they can keep stacking those double-digit wins here?
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge game. Winner goes to the SEC championship game to play Georgia. Yeah. So a lot riding on the line. Obviously, it's a rivalry game that hasn't played since 2011. So there's a lot of bad blood. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere. One of the best probably in all of college football. Forget this weekend, this season at Kyle Field. With that being said, I think A&M is generally overrated. I think Texas is a little overrated too. But this is the first time A&M has been an underdog all year. And yet they're 8-3. They've only covered 3 games. They're stepping up in competition here. I'm laying the 5 here with Texas. Not a big bet, but I'm laying 5. The reason it's not a best bet, there's, rumors out there that Ewers is a little bit banged up his ankle. So he's going to play. Let's see how close it is. That's a good game to live bet. Let's see how badly he's injured or not.
Okay, Brad. So Thanksgiving in the rearview mirror, Black Friday here today, Christmas right around the corner. Let's revisit something we kind of kicked around about a month ago on the show around Halloween. Someone in the live chat said Halloween's the most overrated holiday that there is. And I think most people can agree that's a ridiculous statement to make. So what is the best holiday and what is the most overrated holiday?
I would say if the menu was something other than turkey, I might rank Thanksgiving one because it's family, food, football, everything that I love, but I don't like turkey. So I can't rank that number one. I like Halloween. I like dressing up. I like the time of year. I like the leaves. I like giving, the kids candy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like horror movies. So I Halloween's by far number one for me.
Yeah, Halloween, a lot of great traditions. It's mainly built around fun. There's not too much work involved. Like a lot of the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, there's a lot of work involved. I think probably the most underrated, maybe not over, maybe just flat out best would be the 4th of July down there in the US and Canada Day up here in Canada. For those of you who don't know, Canada Day is on July 1st. It's right in the thick of the summer. So you get the barbecue going. Great time to get out on the water, whether it be a pool or a lake somewhere or the beach, and drinking. Not really a whole lot of work to do. It's just a lot of relaxing involved. What about the worst or most overrated? I think the most overrated is New Year's Eve, New Year's. I mean, you're usually sucked out from the holidays at that point. It's good with the football and stuff, obviously, too, but you're out on New Year's Eve, you're trying to catch a taxi at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's a disaster. What would you say is the worst or most overrated holiday?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, the New Year's Day bowl games don't get played, don't mean as much as they used to. It has certainly, as far as I'm concerned, less than New Year's Day and New Year's Eve. And I'm, older now. I don't go out for New Year's Eve, amateur hour. Speaking of amateur holidays, just made up ones that mean nothing really. Valentine's Day. I hate it.
Yeah, it tends to be, it puts a lot of pressure on the dude, right?
Yeah.
Like the dude has to spend some money and put on like a day for his girl. Sometimes it leads to something nice at the end of the night. We won't get into that. But
I mean, that's a positive, but I mean, in order to get that, you
got to put your work in. So it's just that's a manufactured like consumer holiday at this point, which is getting absolutely ridiculous. Okay, before we get into any trouble, Brad, we will leave it at that. Enjoy the action here. Best of luck with your bets, and of course, we're going to catch you again on Monday's edition. Before you bet, we'll catch you then.
Enjoy the games. Thanks for having me, guys.
Indeed. All right. Yes, sir. The man right there. Very efficient. 12 minutes from Brad. Okay. Let's talk Black Friday football. Let's bring in our guy with the sexiest smile in sports betting. Look at him representing the Raiders. We're wearing all Raiders stuff here. Who's that? What jersey is that?
Bo Jackson.
Ooh.
Not a bad one. Not a bad one.
Break out a Gardner Minshew.
No, I used to be a big Raiders fan, but that was growing up in a small town listening to hip hop and wanted to wear anything Raiders pullover, right? I had like a Tim Brown jersey. I was a big Raiders fan until we lost in the Super Bowl, sadly. And then I jumped off the bandwagon. And it was right around that time I started fantasy and stuff. And I'm like, cheering for one team just doesn't mean as much anymore. And
I sometimes think I should go down that path. We can
get right to it into you about Miami today about cheering for a team and the roller coaster in which that was season.
I am mad at myself
for buying back in and not believing the narrative.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say I bought back in. I told people flat out on the show that my expectations aren't high and I do not expect them to win, but I am mad at myself for not taking the Packers to cover the spread. And it's not necessarily about the cold. I don't think it was the cold that you're going to blame that performance on. The defense was pathetic. They had so many missed tackles. Mike McDaniel, once again, in a big spot on primetime. His play calling absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
He's a bum. Don't have Tua lining up on 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line in shotgun for some stupid pass play that he ends up getting sacked on. The offensive line could not protect him yesterday. So moral victories, you have to chalk them up if you're a Dolphins fan, for God's sake. So they didn't give up. They outscored the Packers in the second half. So there's that. And Tua played pretty good. There was one series towards the end of the first half where he overthrew a couple of receivers. That wasn't good. But overall, he showed up. But yeah, that's what do I say about this team? This is a movie we've seen before. They throw you off the scent. The Raiders come into town, they smack them. The Patriots come into town, they smack them. Then they go on the road against a good team as an underdog in a standalone game, and they do not show up. That first half, if you score 3 points in the first half in Green Bay, you're not going to win the game, especially your fumbling punts, stupid penalties.
Opening the game.
So here's what I'm going to say. Producer Mick and I, we joke about this, and some people are familiar with, I took down the Dolphins helmet earlier in the season. Tua gets injured, and the offense just fell apart, and I ended up putting it back up. And I said, I'm not going to take it down after that game, but they host the Jets next week. If they lose at home to the Jets next week, the goddamn helmet is coming off. And I don't know if it's going to be going back up anytime soon. So that's the Miami Dolphins. 4-2 with my bets overall. Yesterday, the Giants somehow go over their team total. I left the room. I went and took a shower or something, came back, and they said, hey, they got to 20 points. They went over their number. Tracy went over his receiving. That game sucked. That seemed like the longest game in the history of the NFL.
The last 4 minutes felt like an eternity in the first half.
Yeah. So let's not spend a second on that game, but the Detroit Bears game, Detroit, they should have been up like 24-7 or something like at halftime. They kept getting to the red zone. They were dominating, but they could not convert in the red zone. Of course, they don't end up covering.
I think they were a little stubborn in giving David Montgomery the ball, right? When Jahmyr Gibbs obviously looked like the better explosive running back.
He was cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. And they're like, no, let's give it Monty more carries and more carries at 3.5 per carry. But he went 21 carries and didn't even hit his 100 yards?
Yeah, so the Lions, they cooked in the first half except for scoring. They did blow that cover, though. They really should have covered that spread. But Matt Eberflus and Caleb Williams at the end, I could not believe what I was seeing. I was watching it play out, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, am I the one who's stupid here? Am I in the wrong thinking that they got a timeout and they're just milking the final 32 seconds off the clock for no goddamn reason? So that was the worst clock management I saw since Dallas calls a QB draw with 14 seconds left and no timeouts left in a playoff game at home versus the San Francisco 49ers. And I can't believe Matt Eberflus still has a job. Right now in the press conference, he was insulting to the Bears fan base. What did he say? I think we did the right thing. I think we managed. Yeah. You are an idiot.
He was very confident.
Eberflus. You're going to get killed either way. Come out and be honest and say, hey, you know what? Communication was difficult. The crowd was really loud, and we messed up.
Yeah.
Own up to it.
Nope.
Bonehead.
Overbetters were not very happy with that play too, right?
Yeah.
47.5 would have went to 46 on the tie.
Yeah, the books probably made out very good.
DJ Moore was sitting at like 98 yards too. Overtime would have got him over. Overtime might have got Montgomery over 100 yards. Yeah, there were some crappy ones in it. I went 5-1. The only play I lost, Joe, was Roschon Johnson touchdown. He didn't touch the ball. He played 6 snaps, 4 on special teams, and got a concussion somehow. So he was out.
Yeah, so we do combine to go 9-3 with our Thanksgiving Day pick. So a pretty nice day. I hope you guys tailed us. On Thanksgiving and Mondays are the days to tail us around here. Maybe Black Friday football too. So one last thought on the Dolphins. I did turn the game off at halftime, and I ended up tuning back in to see when they got up to the goal line and called that stupid play. But I had a thought to myself, at least I am not a Bears fan. Right? Yep. Because Dolphins fans are down, Bears fans are down worse. Okay, let's get into the bets here. We got a bunch for the Black Friday game here, and we do have a bunch for Sunday per usual. I'm going to get us started here by backing Travis Kelce. I'm going to take him to go over his receiving yard total. These are getting lower and lower here for Kelce. I like him to go over 53.5 receiving yards. This is the Door Crasher special. Black Friday's best bargain, baby. He's had 62 or more yards in 4 of his last 5 games, including 90 versus the Raiders. A month ago, he had 10 catches on 12 targets in that game. And Las Vegas has allowed the 6th most yards to opposing tight ends this season. Right around 62 per game, over 10 yards per catch allowed. Kelce to go over his receiving yard total. Jingles, you're going for the quarterback on the other side of things here, Aiden O'Connell. What do you like or not like for him?
There's a lot of pass for this under. One of multiple passes are him not finishing this game. Coming back from that hand injury, going to Arrowhead in the cold on a short week. All of that sounds terrible. So in a prop market, like, how do you fade a quarterback? We know that just don't bet they're under passing yards because game script can go that way too. But I think the completions is a spot where you can find a little more value in fading a quarterback. We already hit his under 0.5 passing touchdowns with the blitz on the release this morning. Got that at plus 170. He could just do absolutely nothing. This is an offense that already doesn't have a run game. There's question marks within that backfield. And I mean, I think the game script is priced way too much in. 22.5, bad quarterback play, might not play 4 quarters, taking the under.
Okay, a similar bet that I made yesterday. I took the Giants to go over their team total at 16.5. I'm going to take the Raiders to go over their team total, 13.5. Oh my God, they're bad, but this number is just disrespectful to the legacy of this team. Al Davis. Just win, baby. Just go over 13.5 points here, baby. So not a lot of stats to back this one up here, really. But like I said, they're bad, but not this bad. 13.5. This is a number that they have gone over in 9 of their last 10 games. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs here. They are sleepwalking right now, guys. This is the mode that they are in right now. This is a mode that they tend to go into every regular season. Their foot's not going to be on the gas in this game. They're going to win. I don't know if they'll cover the spread, but they just went down to Carolina last week and allowed the Panthers to score 27 points on them. Bryce Young had the best game of his career. So, yeah, the Raiders to go over 13.5 points.
It is a good number because I saw it. I'm like, this is a perfect spot to hit Vegas team total under. And then you're like, I can't bet under 13.5.
Yeah, a couple field goals, maybe something stupid happens where they get a special teams or a defensive return a fumble, good field position here. A couple things. Raiders over 13.5. It's ugly, but it's a very low number. Okay, so I made a bet on a guy named Travis Kelce in this game, and you have a bet on a guy named Patrick Mahomes. What do you like for him?
Yeah, he'll probably play 4 quarters. That's fine. Under no interception, minus 125. Pretty simple thing. Massive favorite. Backfield's healthy. Pacheco's back. It's just going to be a low volume game for Mahomes. Minus 125 is a really good price. Seeing some minus 150, minus 155s out there on the spot. So probably don't like it at that number, but minus 125, minus 130, minus 135. I am in. 10-2 TD interception ratio over his last 4 games. Kind of cleaning things up as he had a TD to interception ratio of 8-9 over his first 7 games. And don't get me wrong, like I don't think Kansas City is a juggernaut right now, and I think they're outside of the top teams and the power rankings in the top 4. But no interception versus bad Vegas team with the lead, minus 125, worth the price.
Yeah, it's kind of weird with the Chiefs. They have this sleepwalking mode that I said they go into every year. This year, I don't know, kind of seems a little different. The Bills handled them pretty good a couple weeks ago. They should have lost to Denver.
You're 6 and they could be 5-6, right? Like, I think the perfect example is what happened in week 1, right? The Isaiah Likely toe on the line. What was the other one? Didn't they lose? Who did they lose to? Did they lose to the Raiders too?
No, they lost to the Bills. Of course, they had the blocked field goal against they lost the blocked field goal against the Broncos.
I'm thinking of Baltimore. I was thinking of Baltimore. There's a world where Baltimore is undefeated and Kansas City is sitting at 6-5. I mean, yeah, the Kansas City game, they lost to Vegas. Ugh.
Okay, guys, around 1,700 viewers watching live right now across YouTube and X. If you guys want to participate in the show, hit up that live chat. Let us know where you're watching from and let us know what your best bets are for today and for this weekend. Okay, on to the Sunday NFL games. A couple of sneaky little spots here for me. I'm going to start with the Chargers first half money line, minus 110 on this one. So check out this matchup. Check how these teams pair up here. The Chargers rank first in the NFL in first half points allowed with just 5.7. Their opponent, the Falcons, they're 31st in first half points allowed at 15.1. I do think this game sets up very nicely for Justin Herbert versus a Falcons team whose pass rush is non-existent. They are dead last in the NFL in sacks, 30th in pressure percentage. Their defense is also 30th in opponent third down conversion percentage. And of course, we know the Chargers coming off that loss last week to the Ravens. They've responded pretty well in this spot. They come out pretty good here. So they're undefeated in the first half of games following a loss, and they've outscored their opponents 39-12 in those situations. That's contributed to them being 8-2-1 ATS in the first half this season, but we'll play it a little bit safer, take them on the money line here, -110. Let's go Chargers. Okay, next up, I feel like this guy is on every other show, Bucky Irving. What do you like for him?
I like the fact that he hasn't, it sounds contradictory, but he hasn't really taken over the number one back. So if he takes over the number one back role, he'll probably lose the third down passing role to Rachaad White. All three backs were getting carries last week. Sean Tucker fumbles, then it goes to a 2 rotation, and Bucky fumbled too. But Bucky has chops in the running game and in the passing game, so this is a pretty safe spot. I mean, we're in a point where Bucky has 5 straight games with 3+ receptions, which is not an easy thing. 252 yards. This is ladder potential because he can do it. 30+ is 280, 40+ is 550, 50 receiving yards is 10-1. He's going to get the third down roll. And if you're ever betting props and you're like, oh, I'm going to get some, let's take a look at the running back market. The first place you go to is facing Carolina, who's an absolute dumpster fire to opposing running backs. So like this number, 15.5 can go over in one play, but I like the ladder too.
Breaking news. My sources can confirm that Matt Eberflus just got canned. He's no longer
they heard
the coach.
you. They heard you talking, and that was it. That was the
talking.
final straw.
Adam Schefter has sent me a message. Oh, no, that's a tweet from him. I thought he was messaging me directly. Eberflus is fired, as he should be.
Does Thomas Brown go from like pass game coordinator to offensive coordinator to interim head coach? If they move that, I don't know who the interim head coach is.
It's always crazy when you have an interim head coach because they end up typically just getting relieved of their duties at the end of the season because a lot of the times they don't retain the interim head coach and they don't want to bring him back to the coaching staff because it creates a weird dynamic with whoever you bring in. So it's a bit of a raw deal at times for the interim.
Antonio Pierce would like a word with you, sir.
Oh, God. What about the guy before him who got them to the playoffs, actually? So, yeah, this is kind of similar to the Trevor Lawrence situation where Trevor Lawrence comes in and he's got that bonehead Urban Meyer as his head coach. And he was probably the worst head coach in the history of the NFL. And people kind of would give Lawrence the excuse of, oh, he got off to an awful start with Lawrence and he kind of got with Urban Meyer and he got to dine out on that excuse a little bit. So that is going to be a big narrative here for the Bears going into next season. Caleb had awful coaching last year. So we got to give him another chance. And maybe some of that is fair, but expect to hear that a lot going into next season, whoever the new head coach is for the Chicago Bears. Okay, let's keep going here. Steelers-Bengals. Fun-looking game. Total 47.5. I'm going over, baby. Let's have some points here in Cincinnati. So we're seeing some extremely high-scoring games in Cincinnati this season. Recent games have combined scores of 65, 79, and 71. They've gone over in 7 of their last 8 games at home. Pittsburgh has gone over in 4 consecutive road games. Some impressive offensive performances versus Washington, 28 there. They had 32 in Las Vegas. You might think that Steelers defense is good. I don't know if they're great, though. I think it's hard to judge them. It's been a bit of a cupcake schedule of opposing offenses for them throughout the season. And what I like about the Bengals here, what makes them such a good over team here, is that their offense is really good on third down and in the red zone. They are top 5 in each. Their defense stinks in those spots, bottom 6 in each. So expect both teams to be able to move the ball, convert on third down, touchdowns, not field goal attempts when they get into the red zone. Give me over 47.5 there. Next up, Michael Pittman. Game of the week, Colts Patriots. Maybe not, but maybe the prop of the week. Tell us about it.
220, anytime TD. There's a ton of injuries right now to these Indy receivers. Josh Downs, doubtful. Alec Pierce, not practicing. Those are 2 starting guys in the 3 wide receiver set. Michael Pittman coming back from a back injury. He looks good. He got 6 of 7 last week. And that's not an easy thing to do with Anthony Richardson. That's for sure. And we kind of joke about how poorly Anthony Richardson played last week. Did face Detroit. We saw what that defense was, especially in the first half yesterday. He can get the ball down deep. That's fine. Facing New England, brutal defense. This is a good spot where he could have 10, 11 targets if those guys aren't in a game that should have decent weather. I know there's some crappy weather up in the Northeast, but this one should be fine.
Okay, another sneaky spot for me. I'm going back to my roots with some of these first half and quarter trends. The last couple of Sundays have not gone well for me. So let's look to play this one. I think it's a really good spot here. Bucks, Panthers, first half over 23.5 points. So check out these teams. They are a combined 18-4 to the first half over this season. The Panthers are 10-1 to the first half over this season. So why do these teams play in such high-scoring first halves? It's because the defenses are getting absolutely cooked in the first half of these games. 28th and 32nd in first half points allowed. On the other side of the ball, though, Tampa Bay, they start really hot. They get going here in the first half. They rank second in first half points at 15.3. That goes up to 18.2 on the road. And then maybe you could argue a little bit of offensive momentum here for the Panthers coming off that game where they scored 27 against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's going to be their most impressive offensive performance considering the opponent in a very long time. So maybe a chance for Bryce Young to have another good game, second straight game at home for the Panthers as well. So we'll take a higher scoring first half there, over 23.5. Okay, Jingles, two props from you. Lad McConkey, my guy. What do you like for him?
Over 69.5 yards, minus 110, faces Atlanta. So right out of the gate, not even dealing with the situation with this offense. Indoor game versus an Atlanta team that has the worst pass rush in all of football. Going to be lots of time to pass. But are they going to pass? Yeah, they probably are going to pass. Why? Dobbins is out. Have you seen what Gus Edwards is doing on the ground? He's awful. Haskins, brutal too. Fidal, these are not good options in the running game for a run-first offense. But we've seen this offense go pass heavy, and they can. Okay, so if they go pass heavy, where are the targets going? We saw Quentin Johnson not catch anything. He's trash. Josh Palmer's okay, but he runs 15-yard routes. Will Dissly's also banged up. So now we bring in this guy, Lad McConkey, the rookie. This is a big number. We're talking about the same number kind of that Malik Neighbors had yesterday. He's going to account for 33% of this offense, and versus Atlanta indoors with no pass rush. Going to go off. Also ladder potential. Love it.
Okay, last but not least for the NFL section of the show, a bet on Noah Brown. What do you like for him?
I think Terry McLaurin's actual role within this offense is what scares some people. They think Terry's the number one guy. Terry's not the number one guy. He had that 86-yard touchdown at the end of the last game. Guess what? If he doesn't catch that and go for that run, it would have been his third time in 4 games of under 25 yards. His target share is not where Brown's is. His routes are similar, but it's been Brown who has at least 6 targets in 4 of his last 5 games. And he might have a bigger target share. Austin Eckler's banged up. Brian Robinson's banged up, so there might be more passing volume. And at the end of the day, it's easier to pass versus this Tennessee defense that's already without 2 of their starting secondary guys in Diggs and Snead, who are massive pieces of that defense. So bombs away for Washington, and Jaden Daniels has got to get back on track in the passing game.
Indeed. Okay, Jingles, that does it for your Friday appearance on the show, but the pressure is going to be on you on Monday's show. I am off on Monday. I haven't had a day off since summer. I'm headed home to visit with some family, to watch some football with my friends from growing up. It's a tradition I've been doing the past couple of years. Look forward to it every year. So as a result of that, I need Monday to travel. And as a result of that, Jingles will be in the hot seat, a.k.a. the hosting chair.
Oh, jeepers.
We've got a lot of work, a lot of prep to do over the weekend.
God. I'll start right now.
Indeed. So unfortunately, the Mr. Monday night pattern that I'm on, I'll have to hit the pause button on that. But yeah, you'll be hosting.
Send them in, bud. Send them in. I'll read them out.
We'll see. I'm kind of leaning under. I don't know if I want to make that official.
Oh, we won't lock it in. We won't lock it in yet.
Indeed. All right, buddy. Have an awesome weekend, and I'll be watching you on Monday, and I'll be with you again on next Thursday's show. Have an awesome weekend.
All right. Enjoy the weekend. Take care.
Yes, sir. Okay, running right along here. NBA is back. Had the day off yesterday, and if we're talking NBA, who are we talking with? Jon Metler. It looks like he's been arrested in one of those rooms at a police station where he's being interviewed. I don't know if you guys have ever been interviewed. I won't get into my past. What's up, buddy? How we doing?
I'm in Toronto, and I'm in our office, and it's like this telephone booth, really noise canceling thing happening here. It's kind of crazy, honestly. But
Wild stuff. Okay, so NBA is back here, a good-looking slate here. NBA Cup games. Of course, we each have 3 bets. Now, I'm on my first skid of the season here in the NBA. I've got to bounce back a couple of bad beats with unders going into overtime and going over. But like I like to say, luck goes both ways. I think hopefully I'm owed some here tonight. So let's get back to our winning ways, and let's start things off in Minnesota, where the Clippers are in town here. Let's go Clippers, baby. I'm going to take them to cover this spread. They are a 6-point underdog in this one. So just look at the stats here, guys. LA playing much better ball right now. 2nd versus 20th net rating over the last 5 games. The T-Wolves, they're not the same team that went on that amazing run last season. Not yet, anyways. The Clippers are playing some of the best defense in the NBA at the moment. The T-Wolves have been below average on both ends of the court. Maybe they shouldn't have traded Karl Anthony Clowns. Maybe. T-Wolves, last 9 games, awful. They are 2-7, some really ugly losses to the likes of the Raptors. They lost twice to the Trailblazers. And they're having trouble separating from good teams, average to good teams this season. Lots of 3- and 4-point wins versus the likes of the Phoenix Suns, the Denver Nuggets, the Kings, who are all right. And Minnesota, you can't trust them as a favorite. They've been an awful bet as a favorite this season. 5-12 ATS, 2-7 ATS as a home favorite. Clippers, this is too many points. I like them to, at the very least, keep this one close. Clippers +6. Let's go on to Donovan Mitchell, afternoon action in the NBA. I love this on a Friday. He's taking on the Hawks down there in Atlanta. Very high total on that one. What do you like for Mitchell?
yeah, this is a 2:30 start, so you're going to have to get this in if you haven't already. He's my arch nemesis for assist props this year, but I just couldn't not play this. We're reaching the point in the NBA Cup where you're starting to see this kind of be a factor. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, they've already lost to the Celtics in their group. They need point differential, and they've shown you in their other games that they're going to chase it. There was a game against the Bulls. They were running and gunning, and they're already up 15, and they're doing it the last 40 seconds, and they poured in another 10 points. So when you look at this prop for Donovan Mitchell, the over 4.5 assists had an edge at his normal allotment of minutes, which is already pretty low because they've been involved in so many blowouts. But when you factor in the NBA Cup here, I just have a hard time believing his minutes aren't higher. Like, they want to run up the score. They want to push tempo. He's playing the Hawks. The one thing he literally just played the Hawks and he had 7 assists. It's kind of hard to ignore that. And a lot of them were dump offs for dunks, which you really like. I think the matchup with the Hawks, it's obviously very offensive. I think Dyson Daniels brings an element where he's a good enough as an individual defender. He can force Mitchell to pass. So he can be just disruptive enough. So Donovan Mitchell, my least favorite player to bet on this season, but with the NBA Cup here, I just had to play this at this number. So over 4.5 assists.
All right, revenge game for the Cavaliers. Next up, let's go down to Miami, where dogs don't stop, baby. I am on the Toronto Raptors to cover at +8.5. Let's go, Raptors. So not much of a statistical gap between these teams here lately. Raptors are 11th in net rating over the last 5 games. Miami is 14th. If you want a bigger sample size, they're also pretty close in that category over the last 10 games. Raptors playing decent defense here. They're at a surprising 4th in opponent EFG shooting percentage over the last 10 games. The number 1 offensive rebounding team in the NBA during that span as well. And this has been a favorite spot of mine over the past couple seasons, favoring the Heat as a big favorite at home. So check this out. As a home favorite of 5 or more, they're 7-22-1 against the spread over the last 2 seasons. They really do make a habit of playing down to the competition. The Raptors, meanwhile, they are a scrappy dog. 13-5 against the spread as an underdog in their last 18 spots as an underdog. They're an underdog a lot. And they do stink, but this is the best stretch of the season that they are on. They have a couple wins in the back half of November here versus some quality opponents, and they are keeping things close in a lot of their games. So I think that they can at least keep this one close. Let's go Raptors down in Miami. Next up, let's go to Boston Celtics. Drew Holiday. What do you like for him?
Yeah, shout out producer Dell too. I think he's at that Miami Heat Raptors game tonight in Miami. So
he's allowed across the border. That surprises me.
Tell him take the 8.5. All right, we're going Drew Holiday, 5+ assists, +145. I mean, it's the same thing we're talking about with Donovan Mitchell. Again, another schedule spot here where, the NBA Cup, it's starting to be a factor because the Celtics also find themselves in that group with the Cavs. They both have one loss. They're probably one of them's going to get stuck in this point differential game. And this is the Celtics' last chance to run up the point differential. They're in Chicago. So Drew Holiday, you always like Drew Holiday's, props and stuff because he's kind of capped at like that 30-minute mark. So when someone's like, someone's projected for 37, it's kind of hard to go higher than 37, but Drew Holiday can easily get higher than 30 in a game if it's meaningful. And I feel like this is a meaningful spot for the Celtics where they could run up his numbers. And if you're getting extra minutes against the Chicago Bulls defense, I'm all over this. I'm going to take this. The Chicago Bulls defense is so bad. He doesn't even really have to do anything spectacular to get assists. His teammates will just be able to convert them. So if you're just on the floor longer, we don't need the extra minutes, but I think the NBA Cup once again brings you a spot where you might get them. So I'm going 5+ assists for Holiday.
Okay, last but not least for me, for a very pick-heavy show and a pick-heavy week. What a crazy week here. It's pretty good business to be working in. A lot of unders. I got burned by a couple earlier this week. Don't be scared, homie. I'm going right back to another under in Portland tonight with Trailblazers playing host to the Kings. Too high of a number here. Going to take under 226. So both offenses have been awful here lately. 26th and 28th in offensive rating over the last 5 games. 3-point shooting has been brutal. Lots of turnovers leading to dead possessions. Portland has stayed under 100 points in 3 of their last 5 games. When they played the Kings about a month ago, they only scored 98 points in that game. When the Kings go on the road, their shooting is awful. Specifically, their 3-point shooting. They're 29th in 3-point shooting percentage on the road this season. Blazers might surprise you to hear they're actually pretty decent at defending the perimeter. And check this one out. So number here is 226. Only 2 of the Blazers' last 13 games have gone over this number. Average combined score right around 217 in this stretch. People think of the Kings as this fast-paced, up and down the court team. Not so much here lately, playing at a little bit of a slower pace. So hopefully that continues into this one. We see some bad shooting, and it stays under 226. Okay, John, bring it home for us. Good-looking game here in Los Angeles with the Thunder in town. I like the Lakers here as a home dog +3. But there's a prop that you really like for this game. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm going Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I put over 6.5 assists on this one because that's probably the more likely number you're going to see now. I did bet this morning at 5.5 -135. If the 6.5 plus 116 was available, I would have went that route. It just wasn't on the board when I was looking. So from like an EV standpoint, the 6.5 or like 7+ if you want to go look for the alts, that is the better play. Plus 115 or longer, that's better than the number I got. I know it's 1 assist higher, but with that juice, that's the better play. So I would, don't hesitate just because I had the over 5.5. I know that's a question everyone's asking on X as well. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's playing the Lakers. The point of attack defense is really, really weak on the Lakers. There's literally no defenders in the NBA who can stop SGA just in general. And when you're the Lakers, you definitely can't. Their defenders are going to look like they're on skates the whole night. The best thing they can possibly do is funnel him towards Anthony Davis. So I just think he's going to live in the lane. He'll be able to get there very easily. But once he's going to be met by help defense, they're going to have to guard him as a team. And once that happens, the double teams come. It'll create potential assist opportunity. And at that number, I just like the over for SGA.
All right, let's go SGA. And that does it for the Friday show. Recapping the avalanche of picks. If you missed the top of the show in the NFL this week, in the NFL today, I like Kelsey to go over his receiving yards, 53.5. I like the Raiders, ugly bet, representing them today with the colors I am wearing, to go over 13.5 points. Chargers first half money line. Steelers, Bengals over 47.5. Bucks, Panthers first half over 23.5. Jingles, he likes Aiden O'Connell under his completions today. Mahomes not to throw an interception. Bucky Irvin over 15.5 receiving yards. Michael Pittman to get into the end zone. Ladd McConkey over 69.5 receiving yards. And Noah Brown over 39.5 receiving yards. In the NBA, let's keep rolling here, baby. I don't know where I'm getting this energy from. It's been a long week. Clippers +6. I like their Raptors +8.5. Kings, Blazers under 226. Donovan Mitchell over 4.5 assists for Metler. He also likes Drew Holiday, 5+ assists, and SGA over 6.5 assists. The boys in the chat rubbing it in. Eberflus is out. Hey, at least he's going to have a lot of free time over the holidays here. You know how it works with these head coaches. They're still getting paid, so we won't shed many tears here for Eberflus. So we'll have a lot of time to be sipping on some eggnog and spiced rum and watching some bowl games and whatnot. But yeah, that's the way it goes, man. That was absolutely pathetic from him and the Bears there yesterday. But yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
You think that's a desirable job, the Bears job with Caleb Williams?
Well, I think Caleb Williams is going to be looked a lot like Trevor Lawrence was after his first year with Urban Meyer, right? So I don't know. You could bring in the right head coach. He can change everything. Look at Harbaugh with the Chargers, who've been a laughingstock so many years. Now they're a very well-respected team. He's got a really good program going there. If the Bears bring in Mike Vrabel, that's awesome. If they bring in a first-time head coach, I don't know, man, like a player-friendly guy like Mike McDaniel, how's that worked out for the Dolphins? That would not work out for the Chicago Bears. So who knows? Maybe they go out and they bring in Belichick. You know, they have a pretty good roster. The Bears are going to have a good first-round draft pick. So I think they could compete if they had the right head coach. So we'll see what they do. But that is the way she goes in the high-stakes world of the National Football League. Okay, so like I told you guys, I am off on Monday. We're still going to have you covered here. Jingles will be here. Metler will be here. Brad Powers will be here. So the boys have got you covered. So we're going to wrap the show up today. Thank you to all of my guests for joining. Thank you to producer Mick, grinding all week, putting these shows and many others together. So shout out to him. Shout out to our sponsor, BetMGM. Make sure you check them out for all your sports betting needs. And shout out to all the great viewers for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets today, Saturday, and Sunday. We will see you again on Monday. Let's go Raptors, Clippers, and Raiders.